Welcome back to another episode of Inside Access Control, sponsored by SIA. Excited to have Jason Hart join me today with SafeTrust. Jason, thanks for taking the time to join me.
Hey, thanks, Lee. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Long time coming to have you on. The sort of, quiet but deadly in a lot of ways when it comes to a lot of the products that you've worked on and the deep history that you have within the industry. So thanks for making the time in all seriousness. So why don't you, to kick it off, just introduce yourself for those that don't know who you are and SafeTrust, what you all work on. And then you've had some recent news that's come out that we want to talk about, a very cool product that I think solves a massive need. So, but let's kick it off with the intro first.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Lee. Been in the industry about 25 years and came out of IT, information security, and then a few years ago got involved in physical access. And so we formed SafeTrust back in 2016 with kind of the view to take a lot of the knowledge that we had out of IT and sensors and physical access and bring it together. I think the big reason we started SafeTrust was we saw a revolution or an evolution occurring in physical access. People beginning to move away from the traditional cards and legacy way of identifying people in the infrastructure. And so we then went and built a suite of products that leveraged the high-end kind of government work that we've done in our history, and took kind of that knowledge and expertise, and then built a series of products around mobile devices. So that was kind of the essence of how we got started with SafeTrust.
Yeah, very early on the mobile side. You've been talking about it for very, very long.
Yeah, indeed. Probably some of the lessons we learned, and that'll kind of lead up to the product we launched yesterday, was, I think one of the things with physical access is you have to leverage what's already there. So if we were a specialist in anything, it would be understanding the current physical access topologies and infrastructure, and then being able to help customers on a journey that wasn't a rip and replace of what they had, to get them to concepts like touchless access, like contact tracing, like understanding workspace utilization. And to do that, if you kind of pitch a customer, you have to rip out all your door readers, and you have to install tens of thousands of sensors every 6 feet apart. It's just too heavy a lift for most organizations to get there. So we focused on how do we kind of augment what they already have and the policies and processes they have to achieve some of those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. That it's we find out, like, and I've been looking at this, especially now through like sort of the COVID happens, where people want to have new use cases on products that were never built for it, especially even some of the newer stuff that's come to the market, because of how long it takes for development of products to happen to come to marketplace. There's been this sort of, I would say, churn. I don't know the right term for it, but people being like, does the system I currently have support what I need? And I think now, if ever there's been a moment, majority of people were okay to not have that 20%, whatever percentage of what the things they wanted, because the 80% of security was there for them, and it solved that problem. So like, fine, I won't take. But now that 20% is including like health and business continuity and cool factor and a bunch of other stuff. And as it starts to bridge, and sorry, I'm on a tangent now, but go with me. But as it bridges now into being part of a much larger value proposition, like you said, around IoT and sensors and things like that, where the security part is just one aspect of a feature set of a bunch of value creation, right? That product needs to function like an IoT product.
Yeah. If you, well, let's go back 7 months ago before COVID.
Oh, way back.
Yeah, way back. Yeah. Like, I can't remember back that far when I actually could go to a restaurant, right? Our customers would be asking us for mobile access and touchless access. It was a pretty simple value prop. They wanted to use phones to be able to replace physical, RFID cards, right? And be able to have walk through turnstiles and walk up to doors and understand basics of entry and some basic information about exit. All of our products kind of had way more capability, like being able to pinpoint people, and we used to use it for accurate tracking of a mobile device. So we would triangulate a mobile device walking up, for example, to a turnstile. When we talk to customers about, well, do you want that data? Do you want to know that two people were standing next to each other for a couple of minutes? People would laugh at me and go, oh, no, we don't want that. That's a privacy issue, or it's beyond the scope. Obviously, roll forward 6 months and now people do want to know about, well, how many people were in this area? How many people were close to each other? And we kind of had a perfect platform in that, because we did take, as you said, an IoT approach to the product set that we put out. And it was literally a Wi-Fi enabled upgrade for existing door readers that had lots of antennas in it that could track different objects moving around, and used a whole lot of IoT protocols. So we didn't have to reinvent the wheel to make that work. So we kind of stumbled across in a lot of ways a new product feature set, which was not just mobile and touchless access, but being able to move into understanding workplace density, understanding how long a person was in an office or in a room or in a meeting room, and when they exited that room. So that was really as a function of beginning to leverage IoT.
Yeah, it's exciting because it's definitely it moves the products just beyond the security industry into building operations and the rest of it. Because it is a utility,
Yeah.
but the utilities that can do much more beyond just this core competency become far stickier in that, and also for the industry, there's a value creation story there that also allows it to not get squeezed as much because it's delivering much more on top of that. Now, but with that comes the infrastructure. And like, if we tie this a bit to the new news that you came out, what do you do with all of those older systems that have been out there that frankly don't have the ability for upgrades and firmware? Historically, it's just been about rip and replace, but the module that you all came out with recently flips that on its head. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, sure. In fact, probably a little bit of history as to why we developed it. So we originally launched 2 years ago with a sticker, and we had a little decal. You may recall the decal, and the decal was it was designed to literally peel and put onto the front or the back of an existing RFID reader, and its whole function was as a gateway. So it would allow a mobile phone to talk Bluetooth, and then the sticker would translate that into RFID. And the reason we developed that was we understood from the very beginning that rip and replace for mobile was not an option, right? It just is extremely costly. I mean, let's face it, most companies haven't solved the procs or the insecure card problem, let alone going back to them and saying, rip out all the readers you have and upgrade them before you get mobile, right? So we realized that there needed to be an evolution for our customers. So that's why we developed the sticker. The sticker was good, except that because of the power, the inability to draw a lot of power from that RFID reader, we couldn't do things like Wi-Fi. And so it was difficult to turn that into a true IoT sensor. So we've worked on for the last 18 months or so a module that will upgrade existing HIDI class and multi-class readers. It's a third-party module developed entirely by us that literally is a plug-in to the back of those readers. And the reason it's a plug-in is you don't want to be touching wiring, right? And the moment you pull a reader off a wall and you start to need to have licenses and contractors and so forth, the cost of deployment is expensive. So we've taken really the same sticker approach. The benefit of it being a plug-in device is that it allowed us to solve kind of three large problems we heard from customers. One was most of them were on procs or some type of technology similar to iClass or iClass, and they were struggling with how do they upgrade and solve that security problem without without displacing the current user base and without a big bang approach. So the module allows DesFile to be supported on that reader. So it opens up and takes care of being able to support the open NXP data formats. So it means that a customer can continue to use procs and continue to use iClass, but can now go and procure DesFi cards from any vendor that they choose, right? So they can move to a secure card in an orderly, seamless fashion. And then at some point in the future, because the device is an IoT device, it is Wi-Fi connected, and it is OSDP connected, you can send it a message and it will reconfigure the reader, just like applying a configuration card, to turn off procs or iClass and then be solely using DesFi. So it allows, reduces that overall cost of conversion without having to send technicians around multiple times to reconfigure the readers in the future. So that was, believe it or not, one of the big pain points we'd heard, and we'd really never had a lot of, it's difficult inside an organization to say to a CFO, I've got this procs card, it works today, I'm going to spend millions of dollars and I'm going to move to a DesFi card, but it still opens the door like it did yesterday, and the CFO's like scratching their head going, you just spent millions or tens of millions of dollars to get me there, what did I actually get? So this is a really low cost way to do that movement, and do it as you're replacing your credentials, right, over whatever time period you want.
Yeah. There's a question on that if you don't want to jump.
Yeah.
So the module itself, you plug it in, you get to any dashboard, if you would. I'm sure you have any web browser, and then that's how you configure it. So it's actually even one of those things that can really be done by the dealer channel, the IT network, whoever's on site that manages that type of stuff. Okay.
And it's using a set of industry protocols called IoT protocols called MQTT. So it's all IEEE based. So you kind of move on to the next feature, right, which is the remote management. So how, today, if you want to go reconfigure a reader, you have to go out there with a configuration card, you got to pull the reader off the wall, you've got to pull the power wire out, you've got to put the power wire back in, you've got to apply the configuration card. So it becomes it is very labor intensive. With our approach of IoT enabling the device, you can now do it from Central Console. You can now read the configuration of the current readers and match a profile. So you could say, this is our corporate profile for the way the LEDs work, what card formats are supported, what card formats are not supported. So it allows you to get, just like any IoT sensor, information about the reader it's attached to. Then you go further than that, you can get statistics about what's the power line voltage coming out of the panel. So I don't know if you've ever been on site and had problems with long cable runs and power fade. So the module, being intelligent, can track those type of things. So again, real simple plugin that gives you that remote management.
Yeah, a lot of power. A lot of power behind the thing. Yeah,
and then of course the last thing, which is what we kind of went into business for, was touchless access. So, and the thing that we're really most proud of with this device is that having multiple antennas in it gives us true what we call trilateration. So the devices actually mesh together. So if you've got multiple door readers, the door readers will mesh and form a cell. And then within the cell, we're able to track an object moving. So we can track a phone, we can track a watch, we can, whether they have a wallet, don't have a wallet installed on them, and be able to provide information back about, at least initially it's just whether to open a door or whether the person entered or exited the building. But the system also tracks, or can optionally track, whether people are close to each other. And within the cell, how many phones or watches were in an area. Now, why is all that kind of interesting? Because it's an existing upgrade to a reader that takes less than 30 seconds to do. So it literally is pull the screw out of the bottom of the HID reader, flip it up, push the module in, don't touch the wiring. There's no need to. The module will reset the reader, put the reader back on the wall, put the screw in, and you're done. You get those 3 features.
Nice and easy on that end. So yeah, so it's and then because you have, as you said, the ability to do firmware updates and the rest, you can continue as innovation happens, be able to add services on top. So it's a living, breathing IoT device.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the module comes. We've had some plug-in versions of the same module that, for example, non-HID readers. We have the same module with an OSDP in, OSDP out, Wi-Fi enablement. So we're able to do it not just for HID, but the whole system forms a single ecosystem or mesh that allows a printer, if you're using one of our partners, such as RF Ideas or Elatech, where we're embedded into their devices, or partners like Wavelinks, where we've embedded our firmware into their readers, to all begin to communicate with this new module, allowing kind of a really simple, consistent approach to both using DESFi credentials now and using mobile credentials.
Gotcha. And on the so from your side, there's a cost with the reader itself. So I mean the module itself.
Yep.
What's rough cost on that?
Retail one-off about $79.
Okay, so under $100, under 80. And then is there ongoing software fees associated to it, or credentials, or that? Or is it a one-time? How do you all package it to bring to market?
Yeah, so the actual module is $79, and it's the plugin. That's the installation. That will begin to read DESFi credentials out of the box.
Okay.
Mobile credentials vary from kind of in and around $6 to $10 per user per year, optional. So a customer kind of is a la carte on the features that they want to select for the solution.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Straightforward. Nice and effective to get, really sort of state of the art. And then also what I think matters too is what this solves in a lot of ways too is the worry about buying a system and wondering if it's going to be able to support something long term. With the ability to do firmware updates and the rest,
Yep.
you can push those out to it, then it brings up the speed.
Oh, I mean, and I'll give you some examples of that. Like, so, traditionally, we know what's out there. We know this. We know the industry specifications that are used. What we don't know is what happens with things like DESFi as it evolves, right? As more credentials evolve. The good news about our platform is that, as you say, it is over-the-air updatable. It is OSDP updatable. So as new features, functions evolve, the ability to add things like Thread and Zigbee support and so on. There's 4 microprocessors in that little guy and 16 mega RAM. So it's a secure flash as well as a secure element. So it is way more sophisticated as a device than the host reader that's been plugged into, to give you some idea of what's going on there.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's sort of taking it over, and you move the brains.
Yeah. Well, someone asked me yesterday, why don't you just replace it put a new reader on? And the answer is actually really simple. Yes, it's way more powerful than the reader that it's going onto, but the reader exists, the wiring exists, the infrastructure for that reader exists, the cards already exist. Why go and do a rip and replace? It becomes really difficult for the CFO to justify to the CFO that I've gone and ripped out all the readers I've put in, particularly now. This is a low cost, it's a very simple installation, often doesn't require a license because you're not changing wiring. And you're basically going back to the CFO and saying, I just got mobile and touchless. I've now got some contact tracing information, and I've got remote management, so I can give you better statistics in the future. Oh, and by the way, I solved that physical security problem that's been nagging us for the last 10 years.
Seems like a no-brainer. So if people want to find out more information, where's the best place to go?
The website, www.safetrust.com, and of course, calls or sales at safetrust.com.
Awesome. Jason, I really appreciate it. It's great to see the evolution. And it's good to see someone 25 years into it still plugging away on innovation. So
I have to cut my hair short now, so it doesn't show all my gray.
Yeah, I hear you. So, well, thank you. It's always good to catch up, and good luck with everything.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.